Well, hello again, everybody. Welcome to Pressbox Plus, a video supplement to the Pressbox radio show. I'm Jim Steele, and glad you're with me this afternoon or this evening, whatever the case may be. It looks like evening now since the sun has gone down. The day after, Tennessee 52, Alabama 49, and I'm still seeing a lot of people really commenting on this and really reacting to this, good and bad. Alabama fans, of course, understandably upset, but they still have an opportunity. Alabama still has a path to get to Atlanta and get to the playoffs and win a national championship. Alabama's going to have to improve in a lot of aspects, but so is Tennessee. And so Tennessee, though, what a game that is. And I started thinking about this today. Tennessee can outscore pretty much anybody in the country. I mean, if they can put 49 on Alabama, consider this. Alabama scored 49 points. Its Heisman Trophy winning quarterback had 455 yards in passing, and Alabama still lost. Now, what does that tell you? That tells you, boy, Tennessee can score. Tennessee can get it done with the football. So this is a great ball game for Tennessee in a number of aspects. First of all, Tennessee proved to itself that it can beat a good team and do so facing adversity. The scoop and score there late in the ball game to make it 49-42 Alabama when Turner picked it up, just a mix-up between Hooker and Jabari Small. I don't think either one knew that they were going to get the ball. And the thing was right there, just on the ground. Nobody was there to pick it up except Turner, and he ran in the end zone with it. Well, 49-42, and you just figure that was the ball game. And then Tennessee got pinned way back, and then they went all the way down the field and scored. So you get this idea, this team is figuring it out. This team knows how to win. This team knows what's going on. This team knows how to play, knows how to take a gut punch. And Alabama hit Tennessee in the mouth a couple of times. And Bryce Young, 455 yards passing. And Jahmyr Gibbs, their running back. What a guy, was slippery. I mean, he was slippery. He was like trying to catch a water bug in a phone booth. Do you remember what a phone booth is, folks? He was hard to get. And so Tennessee, despite the shortcomings and despite the problems that it had, really did a nice job. And the defense made plays when it had to. Everybody wants to complain about the defense, but think about this. Tennessee held them out with 2 field goals in the first half. If Reichert hits one of those, if Saban decides to go for it on one of those and they score a touchdown, the whole last 15 seconds of the game, those dynamics change. So instead of going for a field goal with 2 seconds, Tennessee's trying to win the game with a touchdown. If the guy doesn't kick both field goals and they go for touchdowns, then that makes it a lot different. So Tennessee's defense did a nice job holding Alabama out of the end zone that time. Yeah, there was way too much. It was way too soft. And but that's what you're going to have to deal with. And when you consider that Tennessee had 3 defensive backs out of the game, including Jaden McCullough, who is suspended for who knows how long while he undergoes scrutiny for this felony assault charge from last weekend. But you got to understand, a guy walked into his apartment, guy he did not know. And the guy, look, it was an honest mistake. The guy thought it was, he was at a friend's house and couldn't remember which apartment it was. And he just walked in. And like I said before, a guy walked into my house once and I picked him up and threw him out the front door. And the cops told me he had some scissors in his hand when I did that. And I'm like, I had no idea. I just knew that he was in the house and I had to get rid of him. So anyway. Big victory, though, for Tennessee because they were able to survive the gut punches. They were able to survive getting hit in the mouth like they did. And they were able to face adversity, smile at it, and say, next play, let's do it. And they converted, and they went right down the field. Boy, I mean, what was it, 48 yards and 15 seconds to set up that last field goal? 2 plays. 2 plays got him right there at the 22 for the 40-yarder. What a great great effort that was. So now what does this mean? I started thinking about it this morning. Tennessee is now ranked number 3 in the AP, number 4 in the coaches poll. And I'm looking at this and I think, and again, I've been reluctant to say anything about this, primarily because battered Vol syndrome, and we know where this program has been, but this team proved something yesterday. And this beat an Alabama team that's got a lot more 5 stars than Tennessee does, that has been at the pinnacle for quite a while. I mean, if you want to be honest, Nick Saban inherited a situation similar, not quite as bad, but similar to Tennessee. Mike Shula wasn't a complete dumpster fire as a coach. 2 years before he got fired, Alabama was ranked number 8. But Alabama expects more than that. And so Saban comes in and builds the program back up, and they've been at the top or near the top for most of that time. Tennessee has not. Tennessee doesn't know what it's like to be there. It's been really, if you want to get back to it, maybe 20 years or more since Tennessee has felt that, breathe that rare air. Let's just put it that way. So now Tennessee has figured out a way to beat a team like Alabama, to beat a team that's been at the pinnacle for decades, or at least a decade and a half under Nick Saban. And I'm thinking now, Tennessee can beat Georgia down there, because Georgia has shown, again, as I mentioned, Georgia's quarterback, Stetson Bennett, is good, but he doesn't have the tools that he's had in the past. He doesn't have those receivers. I think, what was it, Ridley that they had down there once upon a time, and Isaac Nada and guys like that, and some of the running backs that they've had, like Sony Michel and people like that. He doesn't have that this year. Now, he's got good playmaking tight ends. And Georgia's defense, while good, isn't a generational defense like it was last year. I mean, that was generational defense. Alabama 92, Georgia 2021. I mean, those kinds of defenses are defenses you only see once in a generation. So, yeah, it's very realistic that Tennessee could go down there and beat Georgia. And if they do that, they're going to Atlanta, folks. Unless South Carolina, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, or Missouri blows them up. I don't see that happening. I think Tennessee is infinitely better than all of those teams. Although, Spencer Rattler, say what you will, South Carolina's playing okay. And a guy like Rattler can scare you to death, given what we've seen with Anthony Richardson, with what we saw with Keaton Slovis up at Pittsburgh, and then Nick Patty, what we saw with the kid down there, Daniels down there at LSU, and what we saw with Bryce Young yesterday at Alabama. Tennessee can make a great quarterback look phenomenal and make an average quarterback look like a Heisman candidate. But anyway, this is where we are right now. And I think Tennessee now, you've got to think, they got a chance. They could screw up and win this national championship. I don't know that I completely agree with that. Ohio State's awfully good. Michigan's defense is pretty good, and their offense is figuring it out. Their offense absolutely wore out Penn State yesterday. What was it, 41-17? Clemson is still out there. Clemson's getting better, although, and they're starting to feel a little bit better about the quarterback over there at Clemson. So maybe they're getting that stuff figured out. And Clemson, oh, by the way, is still unbeaten. Beat Florida State yesterday, I think by 10. So I'm not exactly sure how good that is. I think Tennessee's better than Clemson, just eyeballing it. But you got Georgia, you've got Michigan and Ohio State, and Tennessee right there in that mix. Why not? Why couldn't Tennessee make it to the playoffs? I think now, after having beaten Alabama, Tennessee is now a legitimate playoff contender. And that may sound crazy, given where this team was 20 months ago, given how bad a shape this team was, coming off a 3-win season, having all the scandals, Donde Plowman saying we had to make some tough decisions and fire a lot of people. And I think implicit in that was maybe the situation with Philip Fulmer. Could it be? Philip Fulmer, he stepped aside. He retired. I think they probably said, guess what, Phil? Let's not make this tough. Let's not have another bad press conference like we had in 2008. Why don't you just call it a day? And I think that's what happened. But Donde Plowman said, this is where we are. This is what we want to do. We had to make some tough decisions, and we did. And she said, Danny White, I told Danny White, I'll let him run the athletic department. Danny White said, you run football. You need anything, you come find me, and we'll see if we can't work it out, and I'll talk to the chancellor. And it's a nice chain of command that they've got going on there. And as a result, Donde Plowman said their enrollment, their applications for admission have risen by 63%. And donations are up. Everything is up. When you win, especially in football, everything gets better. And you look at baseball. You see what's happening with baseball. Number 1 ranked team in America in baseball. Men's basketball. Pretty good team. I mean, they sort of fell a little flat last year, but the year before, look what they had, Admiral Schofield and Grant Williams and guys like that. And this is a good basketball program. Rick Barnes, a lot of people will say what they will about Rick Barnes, but he's gotten them where they win and they make it exciting every year. Then you look at Kelly Harper with the women's basketball team, and they're incrementally getting better. Now, how good they'll be, and then look, you've got Kim Mulkey down there at LSU. They made the phone call, which I said all along. I said, pick up the phone, reach out to Kim Mulkey, and find out what her status is. See if she's available. And they didn't do it, so they brought in Kelly Harper, and I think Kelly Harper reminds me a lot of Pat Summitt. I don't know if she's as demanding as Pat. Again, I haven't seen any of her practices. I used to see some of Pat's practices. Woo! And Pat was very passive-aggressive. But I think the Lady Vols, they got to the Sweet 16 a couple of years ago, or what was it? They got to the playoffs, got to the NCAA tournament, got to the round of 32. Then they got to the Sweet 16, I think, last year. Could be wrong about that, but I think they got to the Sweet 16. They're incrementally getting better and better and better. And when you consider you got South Carolina in the league, you got Mulkey now down there at LSU, Mississippi State has been good. And there's a lot more parity in women's basketball now than there ever was before. So things are looking up all the way around at Tennessee. And so the donations are up. People are interested in coming there. And you've got an increase in applications for admission. So this is where you are right now. And this is all because of the football team. And another aspect of yesterday's victory, I wonder how many recruits were there and what they saw. And I mean, beating Alabama in front of those kinds of fans and seeing the reaction and seeing how everybody was electric there, that had to have an impact on some of those people. And you hear all these remarks about Carnell Tate, this wide receiver, 4 to 5 star guy. He fluctuates between the two, committed to Ohio State in July. And a lot of people thought Tennessee had a shot at him. And he liked Tennessee, and he liked Heupel. And when he talked about Tennessee, he smiled, but he went to Ohio State because he's a Midwest guy, and it's probably closer to home. But Tennessee is not that far away. It's about 6 hours from Columbus, maybe, give or take. So anyway, I think you've got an opportunity here to flip that guy. I said back when he did, I said, it's not over yet, folks. Give him time, maybe, just maybe, at some point in time. Carnell Tate might change his mind and say, I'm going to Tennessee. If he was there Saturday, and I heard that he was, I'm sure Tennessee opened his eyes a little bit. And he's still in touch with Nico Iamalieva, and so I think this is going to have a big impact on recruiting. I was sitting there listening to the replay of the game, and it was funny when Jalen Hyatt caught his last touchdown pass. Bob Kessling says, that's 5 touchdowns for Jalen Hyatt. It reminded me, and let's go back to 1979 when Tennessee played Notre Dame and beat Notre Dame 40-18 in Knoxville. and just absolutely demolished them. And this is when they had Jerome Havens and all those guys. That was a pretty good Notre Dame team. I think Ole Miss beat them that year, though, down in Oxford. If I'm not mistaken, I think they did. I could be wrong, but anyway, Tennessee beat them 40-18 in 1979 in Knoxville, and this was when Notre Dame was on top of the world in college football. And I remember John Ward saying Hubert Simpson has four touchdowns, and that was a big deal. Hubert Simpson was a great running back for Tennessee. He got kicked off the team, but unfortunately, but that was brought back a lot of memories. And I think a lot of people, it was 40 years since they beat Alabama in 1982, that great game where Tennessee held them out. Who was it? Mike Terry with the interception in the end zone to stop the drive from Alabama and win the game with 10 seconds left. It was just a great outing that day. And I think a lot of people will never forget this one just because of the drought. It had been so long. That game ended in an 11-game drought. This one was 15. And, of course, Alabama's got a big lead on Tennessee. I think it's 20-something, maybe 18, 20. I don't remember what it was. But when you add them up, Alabama had winning streaks of 11, 7, and 15. Tennessee had a couple of winning streaks, but not like that. So this served notice. Tennessee is in the game. Tennessee, I think we can say it now. Tennessee, the Big Orange is back. And I think Tennessee may screw up and go to the playoffs. And if they do, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. You say, well, that defense has to get better. Why? It's winning. They're 6-0 with that defense. All they got to do is hold them out. And the Tennessee did that. They stopped them on the first drive yesterday, Alabama, held them out with 2 field goals. And those 3 drives right there, and then they're late in the ball game. The 50-yard field goal that Alabama tried missed. So you had those 4 instances where Tennessee's defense did the job, aided by a few penalties, but that's part of the game, and did just enough to preserve the victory. And that's all Tennessee needs to do. I said all along, Tennessee's defense does not need to be great. All it needs to be is just a little bit better than last year. Maybe hold them out 1 or 2 drives, the other team out, and with that offense, hold them out 1 or 2 drives, and I think you've got a good situation. I mean, think about this. Alabama scored 49 points, and it wasn't good enough. Think about that. 49 points ought to win you a football game, especially if you're Alabama. It's the most points Alabama ever scored and not win a ball game. So this is, I think this was a big step forward for this football program. It was a big win. Last week was a big win for the program. This week was a huge win for the program because now, Tennessee has a signature victory. It has proven that it can beat the big boys. Now it's got to go out and get Georgia, and I think it can now. I still am not sure. I'm amending my thing to 11-1, but I think they can beat Georgia. I think they can do it. And some people are saying Tennessee's the best team in the country right now. Maybe they are with that offense. Before I thought, well, you got to be careful with all this hype. Don't go any higher than you care to fall with this football team. Well, guess what? They are pretty good. That's a pretty good football team over there. So we're going to find out. I mean, recruiting, as far as confidence building. I mean, you look at Tennessee is doing all this without just a whole lot of 5 stars and without a whole lot of talent that stuck around. All those guys left. Henry To'oTo'o. Don't you wonder what he's thinking now? But he might have been asked to leave, though, given the fact that he was part of that crew that came in with Pruitt and them. Some of these other guys were too, though. So, this has been an interesting turn of events. But I think Tennessee certainly is now legitimately in the conversation. Before, I think you could talk about it in abstract terms. Now, I think it's a legit possibility that Tennessee is a contender. How about that? Did you see that coming 20 months ago? If I'd have told you that, you'd have said I've been in Colorado for too long and I need to lay off the products and the Twinkies, if you know what I mean. So anyway, folks, enjoy it. It's been a kind of an interesting turn of events, and we'll continue to comment on this. Tennessee Martin is next. Keith Carver, the chancellor at UT Martin, a friend of mine, very good dude, said to Donde Plowman, he said, look, if you can't get the goalpost replaced in time, we'll play it at our house. We'll play it at UTM. And some people are saying, really? Do you think he was serious about that? I don't think he was serious. Could you imagine the riot that would take place at UTM for people wanting to get in the game? And look, they just got chain link fence around that place. People would be climbing the fences and they'd be storming the place just to try to get into that stadium to watch that football game if Tennessee came there. The Division I basketball, they had Southern Cal there in 1994. That's no problem. That's not a problem. But with football, there's no infrastructure there. They'd shut down Weakley County if Tennessee decided to play in Martin at that facility. It just wouldn't happen. It wouldn't happen. If they wanted to move it, they'd have to move it to Nashville or Memphis or someplace. But they just couldn't accommodate the folks that wanted to go at Martin. That place only holds about 7,000 or 8,000 people, if that. I was there for one of their biggest crowds when they played Tennessee State, and that was about 8,116. And that was back in the mid-90s. So, but Tennessee Martin is next for UTM, which is kind of good because they can get over their hangover, work on a few things, and then get ready for that stretch run because they're going to have I don't know what the order is, but I think it's Kentucky, South Carolina, Missouri, Georgia, and Vanderbilt. And here we are. We're at the middle part of October already. November's coming up, folks, and it's going to get exciting. And if Tennessee can knock off Georgia, whoa, Tennessee is certainly a contender for the playoffs. And that may be all crazy talk, and I was wrong. I say again, I was wrong about Alabama and Tennessee. I didn't think Tennessee could do it. Now I'm starting to believe. That's going to do it for me. I appreciate you guys joining us. Appreciate the kind words, the comments, the views. Hey, like and subscribe. Leave a comment if you'd like. And I appreciate everybody taking part in this. Join me on Twitter. My handle is Steele Sports, Steele Sports. If you want, you can join me on Facebook. I'm Jim Steele, Steele with an E on the end of it. Send me a friend request. And if you'd like, go to the Pressbox radio page. Type in West Tennessee Pressbox in the search bar. We'll be back on WRJB with the Pressbox on November 1st because we've got the United Way auction. If you can, go to WRJBradio.com from 1 to 4. Listen to the auction and bid on some of the products. It goes for a good cause. You might be helping somebody that's in need, and I think it's a great thing that they have there at WRJB. So anyway, but yeah, do that, and we'll be back on there November 1st, hopefully with video by then. Hopefully with video. We'll let you know about that as the time goes on. But anyway, I'm Jim Steele. This is Pressbox Plus, and we will see you next time. Thank you for joining us.